Take a look around. We are not at Adam's Speed Shop. We're definitely not on the trail. We're right here in my living room, and I wanted to change things up a bit as the product I'm going to be talking about for today is a little different. I am going to be using it on my build. This is still going to be for off-grid camping and overlanding. However, I think there's some applications that are much bigger than that, and I wanted to be in a place where we can go through all the features and talk about the world of portable power by Duracell. Duracell is definitely one of those brands I don't have to tell anybody about. If you ever had a portable device that needed a battery, one of those alkaline ones, they're definitely one of those brands that we've trusted for years. And they've been in this business since like the 1920s. And with that, they've brought a lot of technology into those batteries and giving us longer lasting, higher power output as our demand for more power has been around. Now, one of the things I have found is that specifically the world of portable power isn't something that is equated to the companies that have been making batteries the longest. So today I'm going to spend some time on their newest developments in the world of portable power, and I'm going to start with the Power Source. The Power Source is a gasless generator, and really that nomenclature is there to kind of equate to what we're familiar with in the world of regular generators. And usually a generator is something that burns some kind of a fossil fuel, and with that converts that energy into electrical energy and gives us the power output we're looking for. Now the difference is as a gasless generator, this is using a battery, and Duracell uses an SLA type battery, which is like a spill-proof battery, so you don't have to worry about it sloshing around. And with that, a gasless generator versus a regular generator have very different ways that they operate, and very different ways we have to operate with them. A gasless generator does not have an internal combustion motor there, so you don't have that loud exhaust sound, but you also don't have the carbon monoxide that comes out from burning those fossil fuels. So typically you would have to take your generator and move that away from your campsite, or have that somewhat remote from where you are so it wasn't as noisy and kept you awake at night if you're using it while you're sleeping, or again when you're at your campsite and don't want to hear a motor running in the background. There are some really quiet ones out there, but this is silent. And that's the great part about the gasless generator is it's simply you plug it in, and when the inverter is running, there might be a fan noise that comes on as the heat starts to come up, but it is tremendously lower than what you would get from an internal combustion motor that's creating the energy. And that takes us into our first feature, which is the inverter. This has a 1440 watt inverter. That's a pretty high output inverter, and it is something that is completely built in, and all you've got to do is turn it on. And as you hear it fire up, you'll actually hear the fan kick on, and that'll stay on only when it needs to cool down. But once it's on and running, your display will give you a readout of how much power you have in reserve, and simply plug into the front bay any of those devices that you have up to that 1440 watt limitation. So now that we're all powered up, let's take a close look at that display. And the display gives you some pretty pertinent information. We have our input sources, and we'll talk a little bit about what solar can do and how you can actually hook up another battery in parallel. But that'll be how your battery is being charged. So when you do plug it in the wall, which they do give you this little storage compartment here, and your original power cord. It's a nice storage place, some instructions, but you've got your main power cord, and this is your typical computer power cord that you would find on most devices these days. It's a 3-prong and plugs in straight to the back of the unit right here, and a 3-prong that goes into the wall. It also has a short pigtail, and we'll talk about what that's used for later. But since we're back here, we can talk about some of the other features that you'll see on the back of the unit. It does have these lugs in the back for parallel batteries. So if you want to run an additional battery or using another battery to build up and daisy chain the output of this battery, that's something you can do. And more importantly, there is a solar input. And that solar input allows you to use up to a 100-watt solar panel. It just can't be anything with an internal regulator. So this does have an internal regulator in it. Basically, all you've got to do is plug it in, toss your solar panel out, and it'll start charging the main battery in the unit. Now, there are some other features, and you can read the box here for what those are. The instant on the backup UPS is one of those features. It's a pretty cool feature. If you are using this as a primary powered device and it is plugged into the wall, cycling itself all the time, if there's an immediate power failure and a device plugged in, it'll act as a UPS and provide immediate power. So as it talks about here, emergency preparedness and kind of off-grid power being those other features, it does have that instant on, and that's kind of a cool feature to have if you're using it for other utility around the house or as a backup device that you keep for some of your electronics or a computer. Going over more of the output devices, you've got your traditional USB, and that's all clearly marked here. It's a 5-volt, 2.1 amp output. We have a traditional DC to DC output, so we got a direct 12-volt source that you can plug in there. And then we have our 4 outputs. These are obviously your typical 115 volts, so they're USA 120 type of outputs that you can put up to 1440 watts. of consumption based upon what the limitations are of the inverter. And all this comes in a pretty good package. It's very durable. It's all kind of construction plastic. The handles are just kind of these holds on the front and the back. And basically, I will warn you in advance, this thing does weigh in excess of 55 pounds. So you're going to need to obviously take caution when lifting it. Use your legs. Don't expect that this thing is going to be something that you can grab with one hand and carry around. It's not a lithium battery. It's definitely got the density of a typical car battery. So that being said, it is a large unit, but it does provide large unit output. So those are all the primary features of the Power Source. And now that I got it all charged up, it's time to pack it back up. And I'm going to take this with me on my next trip out. And I'll give you some feedback as to how long it lasts. I mean, it's a 55 amp hour battery, so the math is pretty much out there for those guys that want to calculate that out. But using it for what I use it for, does this get me through a 2-day, a 3-day, or a 4-day type of expedition? Those will all be things I'll find in practical use. So stay tuned. I will be providing a part 2 of how this works out on my trip and the types of things I've done with it. But if you have any questions, ask below. I'll see if I can answer those for you.